Welcome to the GFNY show. My name is Talia Schurman.
My name is Luis Lemus, and today we have these numbers. This is our cycling racing number that we normally put up behind the jersey, but we have it in front because we're getting ready for marathon. GFNY Marathon, Florida. It's happening. It's around the corner. So we're gonna be talking about these new kind of races, and it's gonna be pretty cool.
Yes, that's right. This is going to be a whole new experience, like especially for you, right? But we're excited also to run the marathon. And of course, we have some entries to give away to the GFNY Marathon and also an interview with an ambassador from the GFNY Florida Marathon. So make sure to like this video, share it, and subscribe. Let's go to the show. GFNY Marathon is around the corner. It's going to be October 24th, so you better start training for that. Oh, I hope you are already training. Today we have an interview with Valerie. She is a GFNY ambassador and she has some super helpful tips to help you train for the marathon.
I'm going to pay attention a lot. I know almost everything about cycling, but running is a whole different world. What I know is that the marathon in Florida, it's one of the best chances for all you already runners. If you want to qualify to races like the Boston Marathon, this marathon, the GFNY Marathon, is certified, so it will help you to qualify to one of those races. As far as I can tell, I can kind of think it's going to be an easy one for us cyclists or for us non-runners to get into this running world, because I think if it's going to be had climbs and descents, that will be maybe more tricky, I don't know, on the knees or on the ankles. But this one being all flat, starting on the raceway, which is going to be super cool. I think it's going to be an amazing first experience. So let's go and check out that interview with Valerie and pay attention to all those tips.
And speaking of getting it done, we're about to go to GFMY Marathon and talk GFMY Marathon with Valerie Williams. Valerie is our GFMY ambassador for marathon, and she's going to be running the inaugural GFNY Marathon Florida. And I'm about to bring her on right here. Valerie, welcome. Can you hear me?
Hi, Chris. How are you?
I am fantastic. It's so good to see you again. We spent some time talking marathon last week, so I just want to see if we can go back through some of what you and I had discussed. How do you come to GFNY to be an ambassador for GFNY?
Yeah. So funny. Is my mic okay? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you great.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, again, thanks for asking and thanks for having me. So again, my husband is a huge GFNY fan. And so we were introduced to GFNY probably about 5 years ago in New York City. And I saw that it was just a top-notch event. We had tons of fun there. And since then, we've been riding GFNY all over in Mexico, Dominican Republic. And when I heard that they were starting the inaugural marathon in Florida, I knew that I had to be a part of it. And then Yuli reached out asking, for ambassadors. And so I hopped on board.
Awesome. And while I know you don't consider yourself a cyclist, you did do the medium route in Dominican Republic.
I did. And somehow I wound up coming in the top 10. I don't know how that happened, but yeah. So I went there, I got it done, and check.
Hashtag skills. That's what you have. So you have a long history with running though. So tell us something about your marathon experience.
Yeah, so I've been running about 20 years now. So I've got a few miles on my legs and on my feet. I started with kind of just like a dare. Somebody said, hey, there's a marathon coming up. I bet you're not going to do it. And I'm like, maybe I could. And so it was the Bataan Memorial Death March in New Mexico. That was my first one. Again, as luck would have it, beginner's luck, I wound up coming in second place for that one. And that kind of gave me a little bit of desire, I guess, a little bit of passion, like, what else is in the tank? What else might I be able to do? And so since then, I've just been chasing marathons pretty much all around the world. I've had the good fortune of being able to live in Japan, and so I've run the Tokyo Marathon a couple times. I've been fortunate enough to qualify for Boston twice before. I've done the Air Force Marathon, and so just spent probably the past 15, 20 years searching for different races to run, trying to fit that into my schedule, and of course always chasing after that elusive PR, right?
Well, you're like any other endurance athlete. You're always looking for a race, always looking for a PR. That's just how it works. So we talked, when you and I talked last week during the Daily Coffee episode that's going to air this week, we talked a little bit about your approach to training because it's different from cycling, right? And so some people that are watching today might be cyclists that are thinking about doing the marathon, doing the half marathon in Florida, right? You know me, I'm a cyclist, but I'll be doing the marathon in Florida. So I've started to do my training. And, you know, I think I shared some of my experience with kind of how it went and how it's been going. And it's different. So what's your approach to training for a marathon?
Yeah, so definitely the number one key is to train. So even if you're doing the half marathon, you know, you can kind of get by with a half marathon without training too much, but you don't want to be miserable the next day. So find a training plan and stick to it. That's key. And as I mentioned before, you know, you can, if you're just new and you're just wanting to finish the marathon, just Google one online. There's tons of free marathon training plans out there that are pretty basic, that are sufficient to get you to the finish line, right? And feel okay the next day. If you're looking to PR, this is your second or third marathon, and you want to get that faster time, then I would really encourage you to reach out to a coach or find an advanced plan out there. You do need to add in some different type of runs to your schedule, and there's certain things that you really need to look for and train for to ensure that you're ready to tackle that PR on race day. So again, number one, find a plan and stick to it. That's the first element that you must do. Second is don't cheat yourself on those long runs. You know, the long runs are kind of painful sometimes, and they take up a lot of your time, but they're probably the most important run. You need that time on your feet to build up that pounding, you know, so your legs can handle the time that you're going to be out there on race day. You also need those tempo runs. I talked before about that long distance tempo run. To me, that one is the key. That one builds up that lactate threshold that you need to be able to push through when your body is begging you to stop and you still have 8 or 10 more miles to go. And then, of course, for your speed work, if you're looking to PR, you want to get in those I do mile intervals. Some people still like the 800s, but I wouldn't go anything below an 800 for a marathon. So stick to those mile repeats. And those are really the 3 key runs that you need to do. Don't cheat your training plan. You're only cheating yourself, and really stick to those long runs every week.
Yeah, and there are some mistakes to be made there, but there's also some nuances to learn. Like my coach just had me starting on the 800s because up until now, I hadn't been doing any speed work like you've been discussing, right? So I had been doing all sort of not quite tempo, and I wondered why I wasn't getting any faster. So we started 800s, and the 800s have been challenging, although I would have to say rewarding. But those long runs, there are some mistakes that you can make in going too long or doing too much, because again, it's not like cycling. We talked about this where if I'm getting ready for a 100-mile bike race, I'm probably going to go out there and dial up 120 miles in preparation for that, so that I know that I can take the time in the saddle, right? But it's a much lower impact than the running is, so you don't want to necessarily go out and run 28 miles so you know you can run 26.
Absolutely. So again, it will really depend on how many marathons maybe you've done in the past. Age always plays a factor, whether you've had previous injuries or not. Most running plans are going to set you up to that 18, 20, or 22 mile mark. You do not need to go out and try to run a full 26 miles before the marathon. That is definitely not recommended unless you're an elite athlete. Ideally, you want to do the least amount of training that's going to get you the best results. So there's definitely a fine line there as to the return on the investment that you're getting for the training. You don't want to put so much training on your training plan, overwhelm your body, if you will, so that you set yourself up for injury. So you have to be really careful about how much you add on, how quickly, and then again, really test yourself. You know, is running that extra 2 miles going to give you any benefit on race day or not? And anytime you're putting extra miles on during the week, you're building that volume, you're building the intensity, you're setting yourself up for risk of injury. So that's what you really have to take in consideration. And so if you've done several marathons and you know what those last 6 to 8 miles are going to be like, an 18-mile long run might be just right for you. Regardless of how many 20-mile runs you run before the marathon day, those last 8 miles are still going to suck. That's the only way to put it, right? I don't think there's any better way.
That. You have to embrace that at times, right? And the last thing that we'll close off on, and this is one point that you brought up last week that I thought was just great. And I know that I've heard Lydia say this on other episodes of Daily Coffee: race to train, right? Race to train. So you pulled me into a half marathon just as sort of a readiness exercise of, you know, learning what you can put yourself through as far as a challenge. So what's your philosophy on that?
Yeah, so a couple of different things there, and good on you for joining me. So I'm actually looking forward to that. I think we're about a month out, right? So that'll be a good indicator of, one, it serves as a great indicator of how well you can perform. I think for most people, you know, going out and running 13 miles on my own versus going out and running 13 miles in an actual race environment, you'll find that your results are going to be much better, right? Because you're just challenging yourself a little bit more, the vibe, the community around you, other runners. So you really get to see how far you can push yourself on race day. And then the second thing to that is, too many times we get just focused in on logging the miles. And at the end of your training plan, you know, if you're doing a 24-week training plan like I am, I mean, that's a long time. And so it can start to not feel so fun. And so when you add in these races throughout your training plan, you really bring back the fun back into running. And that's why we all do it. We all want to have fun. We want to improve our health, but we don't want it to be terrible and suck the entire time. So adding in those races can really add an element of fun in. Plus, it allows you to really test your physical ability on any given day. Many times we need to adjust our training plan. You know, another key thing, and I know we're getting close to ending here, but you always have to train at the level where you are right now. So although I've had some great PRs in the past, I am not at that level right now. So I can't hold myself to those same standards, right? So sometimes, you know, if we're looking to set a certain PR on race day, that half marathon or the race that we're running during our training plan really lets us know whether we need to up our intensity or scale back our intensity a little bit. Again, we want to do the least amount that's going to give us the best results, and always training where we are in that moment. So having fun, getting yourself ready for race day, and just, again, testing your fitness.
Awesome. Well, Valerie, it's always great to talk to you. I look forward to seeing you in Philadelphia in June, right before I depart for Vaujany. So it's going to be challenge after challenge after challenge getting ready. So thank you so much for joining us, and I will see you in June. And
yeah, Chris, thanks so much for having me. Take care.
Thank you so much, Valerie, for these tips. And today, as always, we have a giveaway for the GFNY Florida Marathon. All you have to do is
leave us your questions. I know that you cyclist as myself, or maybe you runner that has never done a GFNY marathon because it's the first one, have a lot of questions. Not only here down below on YouTube, because we're gonna read them and we're gonna be checking and answering them on future episodes, or on our post on social media. Go to Instagram to GFNY Grupo and you will find us. We will find a post today on Monday about the Florida Marathon. Leave us your questions there, any questions about the marathon, and only with that you're already in the chance to get an entry to the race.
Awesome. And I have a question. What will you ask?
I think my biggest concern, it's about the running shoes. How should I choose my running shoes? Because I have no idea. Just as on cycling, you cannot just jump on your trainers and get on a ride. Or you could, but it's not the same.
For sure not. And there's also people who has some sneakers like just for training and then other ones just for the race. So
a lot to learn, and I hope you have a lot of good questions. Don't forget, leave us a click on the subscription button just down below. Give us a like, share this video with all your friends, and see you at the marathon.